Hello, guys. My name is Anand. Welcome to the Very Serious Business Podcast. I'm here with Erin. She is the founder, CEO, operator of her own dog services company, as well as some other cool entrepreneurial adventures. Erin, please tell us about your journey and how you got started with entrepreneurship and everything like that.
Sure. So thanks so much for having me. I'm happy to talk about how I got into this because I really like to inspire other people to realize that, it's not something that you just have your whole life as something that you want to do, starting your own business. For me, it was more so a gradual thing. So I worked in the service industry for maybe about 5 to 7-ish years, and that was just my life. I was always working for someone else. My father worked for the service industry as well for like 25 years. So no one in my family was really ever their own boss. Nobody really had the courage or the encouragement to kind of step out and do something on their own. And so what happened for me is when the restaurant shutdown happened for COVID, then I just kind of found myself in this really scary place of where I had a business degree, but I never applied to those kinds of jobs. And I just ended up kind of thinking to myself, okay, well, what would I like to do? It was really uncharted for me. I didn't know if I was going to go apply for other places, but I knew that I needed money and I was living on my own, so I had rent to pay.
Okay.
And that's where I just kind of started looking around. I was literally Googling what kind of jobs can I have, what kind of businesses can I start, and I found dog walking, and I said, great, I like dogs and I can make some money off of it. And that was the start, and it just kind of exploded over 2 years.
Yeah, so were you living I'm sorry. So you lived on the outside at the time, and you said you had to kind of make rent. Were you in school at the time when you had started your whole journey with the dog walking?
No. So I wasn't in school. I was always planning on going to law school, but there was just this insecurity in me and just this gung-ho motivation for making money and getting money that was kind of stopping me from pursuing that dream. And so
pursuing law school?
Yeah, pursuing law school.
Nice.
So I knew that that was going to be the end goal, but there was still this aspect of my personality that really wanted to try to create something in my life and not just work a 9 to 5. And so I think that was the perfect timing for me.
Yeah. Can you go ahead and tell us how? So to the camera, Erin is like obviously an entrepreneur. She definitely has that like spirit ever to her. But you don't want to be an entrepreneur forever. You kind of want to shift to being a judge, correct?
So that's
Yeah. Can you tell us that? Okay. Can you tell us
Yeah.
like the cool story of how you think or how the universe, God spoke to you to be a judge?
Yeah, so it's really crazy. I feel like my ancestors would just be shocked the fact that I'm even in law school, because formal education, higher education, let alone something like becoming an attorney and getting into law school, isn't really something that they had the opportunities for.
You're European, correct? So
Yeah, so
Okay.
both of my parents came from Europe to America, and they were still working these service-based industry jobs. And so for me, I always knew from a younger age that I really wanted to be an attorney. I saw the positive impacts of somebody guiding people like my parents who do not speak a lick of English or slowly learned it and kind of had troubles navigating all these rules and technicalities. So for me, it was nice to know that I always had that as a purpose. And it got to the point where I had a near-death experience. And afterwards, when I was coming out of that state of shock that everyone kind of talks about and the world looking a little bit differently, I just remember that the craziest coincidences kept happening, where I would go into this building and I'd be talking to somebody at the front desk, and they would just randomly mention like, oh, you know this judge, right? And I'm just looking at them like, what are you even talking about? I have no idea who this judge is, and it had nothing to do with the conversation. And I'd walk away just feeling kind of weird, like, what was that? And then I would be driving past and I'd see all of these street signs that I never noticed before, but my eye was drawn to, that looked like presidential names or something to do with DC. And I keep looking at these things, and then I'm looking at the buses driving by with Judge Judy, and it's my attention that kept getting drawn to it. And at one point I kind of wondered, I said, wow, is God asking me to become a judge? And so that was kind of hard for me to navigate, because I felt like I had this higher calling on my life, and it was very scary, but also I have this creative component in me that wants to do some kind of entrepreneurial thing, some kind of side hustle, right? Because I don't think you make money being.
I don't think so. Really. I don't know either, but I would assume not too much. Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, yeah, no, that's just very cool. I think that's cool that you trusted God or trusted the universe, however you want to put it, to kind of guide you down that path. But okay, so tell us about. Okay, yeah, just tell us about your dog walking. I'm sorry, dog services, I guess I should say. So that's what you do mainly right now for income. You've also done. What else did you do? You said something else like that, right?
So
it's like a small thing. Yeah, go ahead.
While I was in law school, I noticed that we had really ugly merch for the students, and the students just felt really, it's kind of like these kids are trying so hard to get into law school, and it's a really, really hard thing for a lot of them that are first generation. They don't have people who are attorneys to show them the ropes, and then you get there and the shirts are just blah and just not exciting.
Love that you think like that, or that you thought of that, yeah.
And really, that's kind of what got me into it, right?
Yeah.
So I was seeing this, and I heard everybody complaining about it, and I think I watched maybe like a couple YouTube videos about some kind of machine called a Cricut. And so a Cricut is a machine that you can put in heat transfer vinyl, and it'll cut it out for you specifically, like very intricately, and then you peel it away and you just iron it onto a shirt.
It's a computer thing, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so it's kind of like it's you plug it into your computer and then it'll cut something out for you. You put the material and it'll kind of cut out the shape or whatever pattern.
You can put a star and you don't have to do anything. It'll cut out the star for you.
Exactly.
Okay,
rather than you taking a pair of scissors and trying to
So it's way more precise.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so what I did is I said, okay, well, let me try to make some cool sweaters because I didn't want the ones they had, and I made some for myself. And people started liking them, and so I just kind of started doing that as a little bit of a side hustle.
That's like a classic story. You do something and you're like, oh, you do something for yourself. People are like, oh, that's so cool, and you turn to a side hustle. I love that you said like, oh, when people, first generation families, they'll come here, they join law school, and then the shirts just kind of suck and they're so ugly. I love you thought that. Like, this is off topic, but I've always thought like badges and stuff. Like a lot of, not cops, but like a lot of like sheriff's badges and stuff. They're so ugly. I feel so bad, and they're just so cheap and hollow. I feel like we can't just spend $5 to give them like a heavy, nice feeling badge for all these like highway troopers and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, that is interesting.
No, it's good to bring that up because I feel like a lot of people think that being an entrepreneur means you have to have the perfect idea and it has to come from somewhere and it has to be this. But a lot of times it's just those little initial feeling reactions of, oh, poor kids. Or like, oh, this could be so much better. Those are your clues, and a lot of people struggle to just follow those because I think that the way you end up successful in these types of businesses is following your passion. So you have to go with that. You can't just do what everyone else is doing. Yeah,
100%. Yeah. Do you think, Richard Branson is, right? Or no, the guy that owns Virgin?
No.
We heard like Virgin Airlines or Virgin Mobile or whatever. Okay, yeah, he's the guy that started whatever. He wrote this good book, or he wrote a book I read. And he said I was surprised because he's like a billionaire, very rich guy. Most people like that are very like like they're very like stilted and hyper logical, right? But Richard Branson, he was like, oh no, as opposed to that, most of my business decisions are very like almost emotion based, for lack of like a better term. Would you say your entrepreneurial decisions like that are more emotion kind of based, or are they hyper? I'm gonna write out a super long business plan. I'm gonna plan out all this stuff. Yeah.
Definitely not. I'm not the type of person. I think that I was trained from going to business school for undergrad to be that type of person, and in practice, it made zero sense. It does not. It doesn't work for me, and that's because I realized that what a lot of people will paint to be a weakness, right, being very in tune with your emotions and emotional, was actually my strength. Because.
Oh, interesting. Okay, expand upon that.
So for me, when I started in the business, right, so I had to kind of figure out when you're entering the dog care business, anybody can take care of a dog. Truly, you don't have to have any kind of experience.
Cool. Okay.
And you don't really have to put any kind of money into it, and that's what drew me to it because I wasn't somebody that was interested in taking on a risk. I needed to pay my rent. My rent was like over $1,500 a month for a tiny studio of like 300.
I feel that. Yeah, I feel that. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I was like, I'm not going to spend money on products. I'm not going to flip things. I just need to make some money, and I have time. And your time is your money. So if you can convert that in some way, that's how you get it going. And so I didn't need a business model I didn't need to write out this plan of how I'm going to get people. I needed action, and I needed to start taking it. So for me, that was, okay, let me just update and write from the heart what my description is for my bio, why they should go with me, what makes me so great. And so I kind of latched into emotions to guide my process. So I would be talking to someone and I could pick up on, oh, they're feeling really stressed. Okay, so let me kind of cater to the stressed person. Oh, this person's really sad. Okay, well, let me cater to them. Let me say that you feel like you're missing out on life. I can kind of pick up on that, and you wish that you had more time to live your own life. So let me cater my marketing to you as, this makes your dog happy. You don't have to feel guilty about your dog being at home. You can go enjoy your life. And so for me, there was no formal way to it. It was just a little bit of trial and error, and just going and going and going.
Yeah. Would you say, I mean, don't be humble here, would you say you're like a bit better than average at like sort of, you know, like you said, you can kind of pick up on when your clients were like stressed. Would you say that's a bit of a gift or not, you know, a bit of an advantage of yours, that you can kind of understand people's like intuitive emotional states kind of well? Would you say that?
I think so. I think that is one of my God-given gifts that I've had my whole life.
So even in childhood and stuff, you think?
Even in childhood.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
There's a lot of times where people will say something to me, and it sounds nice, but I just have this feeling that they don't mean it. Or, you know, my brain starts telling me, no, there's something else going on. And so much psychology tried to tell me, oh, well, that's just like a fear, trauma-based response. But it wasn't. Yeah. Because a lot of times those thoughts and those feelings that I was having actually ended up true. Like a week later, I find out they actually felt this. So I think that, you know, I knew I had that, and then I shoved it into my entrepreneurial pursuits, you know? Other people who are really good at being withdrawn and more professional have that as a skill, and then they can kind of shove that in. So I think it's finding what your gift is and putting it into what you're passionate about. It's not so much you have to have my gift in order to do something that I'm doing.
Yeah, that's nice to hear, because I know just in my life I've been you know, like I worked in like real estate and like sales jobs where it's very like stilted and professional, and like I just was not really like that, you know. So it's nice to hear that someone like you, who I guess that specific part of our temperament is somewhat similar, that was an advantage for you, that you weren't hyper professional at all, very like I don't know, just stilted, I guess. Have you read The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene? I've probably heard of it.
I started and something turned me off.
Why? Really? Why? I love that book.
Because for people like me, if you run into me and you try to apply that book to me, you won't be successful. In terms of me interacting with somebody who has that book and thinks that that book is going to get what they want out of the interaction with me, because I can see through it and I can feel through it.
Yeah.
So it's a little scripted for me. I think that there's probably some good information, but also I think sometimes you have to put a book down and just be yourself, and that's how you create the connection, the interaction that you need to propel yourself forward in life. Yeah,
I think especially for social stuff like that, you know, you kind of just gotta put the book down and do it. But okay, maybe it wasn't that book. Maybe it was The Laws of Human Nature, is another book he wrote. But he said, like, basically, like, pay attention to your initial instinct. Like, your initial instinct about a person is actually very rarely wrong. Like, I believe in evolution and stuff. Like, humans evolved. Okay, this is a good fun fact, is that we have more control over our facial muscles than any other animal in the animal kingdom, like, by far. Humans are very good at lying, and we're very good at spotting lying, better than any other animal, you know. And so just like there's this idea that because of that, because we've evolved to be so almost like manipulative to each other, we've evolved this like unconscious reaction, similar to like how you can tell when someone's, you know how like you'll feel when you're being watched or something like that. Like a similar feeling to, or like along those similar lines to how we have that cool ability to know when we're being watched. We have this cool ability to know when like someone doesn't have our best interest at heart, and like. Oh yeah, whatever. He mentioned that in his book, but I think that's very true. Is that usually your initial like emotional gut reaction to a person is usually pretty accurate, I think. But I don't know. I'd assume you agree with me.
I agree, and something that I've learned along the ways is you can change that, and so it's.
What do you mean?
It's absolutely, that can be, somebody can have certain intentions towards you, but you get to this point of leveling yourself up where you say, I see that that's how they're feeling. and I know that they don't have these intentions.
Yeah.
What can I do to change that? And sometimes there's nothing, right? But sometimes there's recognizing, okay, they're acting this way because I intimidate them. How can I show them that I'm human too?
Yeah.
And bring myself down to where they don't have to be so on guard, they don't have to be so dismissive of me. And so it's kind of this interplay of, sure, that's how you feel, but like, let me make sure that you know I'm seeing that and I'm going to change it.
Yeah.
Because there's always power in your choices, right? You can accept that or you can try to influence it.
Yeah. Do you think, just in your entrepreneurial journey, like I know this is a problem. I'm not a big boss guy, but I've tried to read books and stuff. I know this is a problem a lot of bosses or entrepreneurs have, is that people are basically intimidated by them, and they don't even realize that like people are intimidated by them because they see themselves just a dude or just a person, you know. Have you run into that specifically in like your business stuff, or like people
Regularly.
like intimidated? You're like, why, you know, or like, yeah, have you?
Regularly, and I think that it got to the point where I almost started dumbing myself down or trying to belittle myself because I felt bad for intimidating them, but something shifted my perspective where I understood that I am not intimidating, they are intimidated. And there's such a distinction between this because it's not me, it's them. And the alternative is, how do you get inspired if you don't see people that are greater than you or doing something differently than you, right? You're reading these books that you're talking about because you want to be more like them. Yeah. And so you almost have to start taking it as, I'm here to show them something. God, the universe, whatever you believe in, has put me in their life because they need to learn this. And if I change who I am, they're going to miss out on this lesson. So I got to that point where I said, you know what, I'm not going to be apologetic. I'm not going to dull my sparkle or however you want to put it. But I'm going to make sure that I'm kind. And I think that kindness is how you get over that hump, right? So a lot of my dog care clients have expressed insecurity in how they're handling their dogs and their behaviors. And just I'll make suggestions because I can kind of pick up on, oh, have you tried this? Because I've worked with so many dogs and I've seen different behaviors and I kind of navigate through that more so. And that's almost the equivalent of telling someone like you're a bad parent, or at least that's how they take it.
I didn't think about that totally for dog care. That's a hard blow for some people.
And you know what, I've had that dished out to me. So sometimes when I'll leave my dog for boarding with other people, or I'll leave him with my family to take care of when I go on a trip, they'll point things out to me. And so that was really helpful because I understood, gosh, this is so hurtful, but the way that it's communicated makes all the difference. If you communicate it with kindness rather than judgment,
totally right.
It's helping someone.
I've noticed that in my own life. That's very true. Like, I feel like most people, or maybe not most people, but a lot of people are open to like constructive criticism, as long as you just go that extra mile to make sure they understand like it's out of kindness and it's not out of like, you know, some like a sense of superiority or like alphaness or better than that person is, you know. I just like that you say that. But so tell us about your dog walking business. So, or specifically, I know you did this other cool stuff with your, your shirts and everything. But yeah, tell us about your dog walking business because I know like you've done pretty well recently with the company. Can you kind of tell us like how did you get started? How much were you charging? How much were you making when you first started off? And and especially like tell us about even like the small weird things like just like tell us about your dog walking company.
So I'll start from the beginning. The way that I got into it and how I started advertising, hey, I'm willing to walk your dog, was I found this website that's active in Chicago called rover.com. And so it's kind of like the Craigslist of dog care, where a lot of people will say, hey, I'll watch your dog, I'll do this is who I am as a person, here are some reviews you can check out from people who've already booked with me. And it's a third-party platform where other people, the parents of the dogs or the guardians of the dogs, will start looking for pet care. And it also works for cats as well. And so I took a look at everybody else and I saw that the lowest that everyone was charging was $20. And so I price gouged it. I said, okay, I'll charge $19.
Nice.
For the
you
first
charged $19?
I charged $19
instead of $20. Oh, nice.
For a 30-minute walk.
Less. Nice.
But you have to understand that there's a psychology of seeing a 2-0 versus a 1-9.
Totally.
It's the next
you're
level.
Right. You're right. Yeah, you're
right.
Is that what the numbers were? Most people are charging 20, and you just decided to charge 1.9 instead.
Yeah. And I would say that
nice.
there were definitely some higher ones too, right? But when you're starting out, you could see the people with less reviews, whatever. So I was not really confident enough to put myself in a position, and I had more desperation, right? I wanted to pay my rent.
Sure,
So I said $19, that's fine. I just need to, I'm basically working for a review. I didn't see myself as working for the $19 because the platform also took 20%. So that's what, more close to like $15.
Yeah.
And then you have to pay taxes.
So then independent contractor stuff.
Right, because it's independent contractor stuff. And so I was literally making like $10 for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But what's the difference?
That's
because
like
I could have gotten a minimum wage job that's paying me somewhere like under $20 per hour.
Yeah.
But this was something that was giving me freedom. I decided who I was going to take. And so when I started that, I would say within a few days of just creating that profile, I already had somebody requesting me to walk their dog. And it's because I communicated something that they could relate to. So I put in my little header, the dog-loving law student. That's what was my niche. People would trust somebody that's a grad student.
Oh, yeah, and a law student.
Right?
Totally, they would.
A little bit of professionalism to it. It's not just some
random
random person on the street. You build that trust by communicating something.
Yeah, law student's huge, yeah.
Right? And so I had someone that was an attorney who immediately reached out and said, hey, can you walk my dog? And I was so nervous, like going into it, you know, I grew up with a dog, but our dog was like a very just kind of chill, feed me, and just let me lay. You don't have to really play with me. Like, he was just very docile.
Yeah.
And I remember when I went, I was just kind of like big-eyed and very nervous and just like, oh, like, hi, I'm like very friendly. Like, oh, thanks. And so excited too.
Yeah, that was me, yeah.
Right? Because it's a new chapter of your life. Like, if you would have told me, like, hey, that was the start to what I'm at now, I'd have been, you're crazy. Like, that's amazing. And so I went into it and I said, you know what? The most important thing is, I think I just have to rely on that kindness again, right? I'm going to be kind to the people who are trusting me with their dog. I'm going to be kind and patient with this dog.
Yeah.
And at the end of the walk, I said thank you, and they gave me a review. And so that's when I started running with it. And I said, okay, let me get a couple more reviews, because when I was building my business, I thought, okay, if I had a dog that I believed was like my own child, if I was asking someone to take care of my child, what would I want to see? I want to see good reviews first. I'm not going to give you a chance if you have 0 reviews. I don't care, because I'm that type of person. So that's how it started. And then I just started slowly raising my prices and expanding my services from there.
Cool. So how much, so you were charging 19 when you first started off. How, when did you up your price, and how long after you started was that?
So I relied on my emotional reaction to this, and it wasn't just, I have this emotion passing. It was a nagging feeling.
Because that's important too. It wasn't,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't think that we should be ruled by our emotions. Like, for example, I rarely give in to fear. I've learned that fear is not something that I can depend on to guide me in the right direction, but joy does guide me. I've noticed that apprehension does guide me. Fear doesn't. And so for me, there was a little bit of fear.
Yeah, that's so true. When does fear ever put you in the right direction? Yeah.
Sometimes if there's like a very creepy person on the sidewalk and you don't want to get mugged, and you're like, But there's a little bit of that apprehension for me too.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's always a supplemental emotion to kind of back me up and say, like, no, you should actually be scared.
Yeah, I know, right? Totally, yeah.
And so for me, I started having this nagging feeling of irritation. And it was when I was showing up to these walks that were coming in, I'm like, I'm doing this for like $10, because you always have to think after taxes. I think that's the biggest problem. People are like, oh, I'm making like $40,000, but how much are you spending out of your pocket?
Yeah.
And like, when you're making $40,000, how much is it after taxes? How much are you actually keeping? Do you have to buy food when you go to work? Because that's the number that you need to bank on.
Yeah.
So for me, I got to the point where I was like, this is not enough. And I had to just trust the fact that, one, I had enough people, and two, I can afford to raise my prices because I saw everybody else. And so I bumped it up, right? A few bucks. And eventually it was like around $25 for a 30-minute walk.
Okay.
And then after a few more walks, the feeling came up again. And again. And I started realizing that I don't want to be everyone's dog walker. I want to walk dogs on my own time. And so to filter out that demand, I eventually started going up to, now I charge $35 for a 30-minute. If you have another dog, I'll add another 10, $15.
Okay.
It just kind of depends on the situation. So it got its way up to $65 an hour is my going rate.
Yeah, nice. That's what it is right now. It's $65 an hour.
$65 an hour. Yep.
Nice. I remember when I was in like a long time ago, I did piano lessons. We paid our teacher like $1 a minute. I was like, that's so much money.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
But you have to realize it's so much money because you don't have it. And that's a sad thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I started realizing too, when I started making more money, when I saw other people were charging higher prices for things, I respected them more.
Yeah, I know, right?
Because I said, I would not put my crazy dog who has high energy with someone who's only walking away with $20.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to want to walk that dog, take care of that dog, deal with that dog for $20 because I wouldn't.
Yeah.
And so when you start seeing that, you realize it's not that's expensive, it's I can't afford it. That's a me problem.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a good way. Yeah, it's not that expensive that you can't afford it. Yeah. It's a good way. It could be a depressing way to look at things.
It
right?
is, but it also motivates you, right?
No,
I got to that
100%,
point where I said, I'm like, I can't walk into. I remember when I was growing my business, I started thinking, I'm like, okay, what do I want to do with this money, though, right? It's not just about having the money and spending the money. I said, I would love to go to Whole Foods.
Dude, right? And just get all the delicious, healthy food, right?
Yeah. And that was truly one of my goals because I got so excited going into those stores, but I always had to like pick the less organic or the, oh, this is $10.
Yeah.
And funnily enough,
that's so funny,
after I wrote it down, I started realizing now I walk into Whole Foods, I buy whatever the heck I want.
Yeah.
I bought a $15 cinnamon roll yesterday.
It's expensive. Where at?
There's this nice little place in Chicago called Ingrained.
Where is it in Chicago?
It's on Chicago Avenue.
Okay,
so
nice.
I think it's like State and Chicago-ish.
Okay, I might.
Old Town Gold Coast area.
Is it in like that one really long building or no? Like the one really short long building?
It's by a Whole Foods. So there's a Whole Foods and then down the street is
by like one Chicago.
Right?
Yeah.
And I remember when I first started buying their sweet treats, I'm like, this is so like expensive, but I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah, but
like,
no, I know,
I just can't afford it.
Yeah,
you know, and that was very humbling. There's nothing wrong with not being able to afford something, you know, like I've had a lot of people that will reach out to me and they don't notice my prices, or after a while they say they found something cheaper. And I stopped taking offense to that because I realized, you know, like, hey, I've been in your shoes. I still am in your shoes with things, you know, so it's like, it's okay. But that doesn't mean that I'm not worth my $65 an hour. I honestly think I'm worth way more. But you
have to... Let me grill you. Why? Compared to other dog walk, I mean, just like in comparison to other dog walkers, I'm assuming that's more than most dog walkers charge, or no?
I think I'm the highest charging rate.
You're in some sort of
right. So I would say, like, out of all of the prices that people list on that platform, I would say that my prices are like just guessing top 5, top 10% of what somebody would charge.
Okay. Why? So tell us. I know one thing you said I know you said you did stories. I thought it was super clever. But tell us why do you think you're worth all this, you know, $65 an hour,
So I think that what I started doing with my business is I said, okay, this is not just I'm going to get there, I'm going to walk the dog, I'm going to get out. That doesn't fulfill me because this is still my life. I'm spending my time.
So you do get some fulfillment. Obviously, it's a job, but you do get some fulfillment with the dog walking.
Absolutely. Cool, and that's why I ended up letting go of my sweater business because I wasn't getting a lot of fulfillment. It was fun. It was something to do, but I said, how am I growing as a person? I'm not.
Yeah.
So with me, with these dogs, I started realizing I'm learning body language by actually paying attention to these dogs. I'm learning what triggers dogs. I'm applying that to humans in a really weird way.
You should tell me about that more later.
In my life. And it was kind of like a training ground to understanding psychology of people beyond just reading a book.
Yeah.
And so what I do is, one, I offer complimentary training at this point because I've had enough experience where I say, okay, there's certain behaviors you don't like with your dog. One, I'm going to diagnose them. I'm going to take a look at your dog, and I'm going to say...
That's useful,
when are they doing this? Why are they doing this? And that gives so much utility to the dog guardian because they say, I wish somebody would have told me this. You know, I keep saying, like, oh, no, they're just shy. Your dog's not shy.
Yeah, totally, right.
Your dog wants your attention and thinks that by acting shy, it gets your attention.
That's very
you have
useful.
to, you know, train them. And then that makes the person's life easier, less stressful.
Yeah.
Also, I will run with the dog. So my goal is not just for me to make the money, It's to tire your dog out so you have a peaceful evening,
Oh, okay.
get all the
So that's
energy out.
important. Okay.
So I started seeing, because I'm the type of person where I love to serve other people. You know, like that is truly something that makes me happy. I like to make
Yeah.
other people's lives better because I think that there's a butterfly effect. You know,
Yeah,
they go
totally.
into
I
work and
think
they're
so
kinder
too.
to someone.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I started doing that.
Heck yeah.
And then it was kind of just like, do whatever the dog needs. Not whatever the dog wants, but whatever the dog needs to
Yeah.
help the guardian. And I started writing. I remember I started kind of like dabbling in new hobbies in my life, and I picked up
Okay.
some poetry books.
Okay.
I've never been into poetry. I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. It's a
Sure.
different way.
Yeah.
And so I started writing for my debriefs instead of saying, your dog went poop.
Debrief,
And
that's such a lawyer way
Your
to
dog,
put it.
I know.
Go ahead though, sorry.
And so instead of just saying like the boring, like, yeah, we went here and then they went home, I started writing like little mini stories.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like,
So cool.
oh, like Inspector Klaus like was sniffing around and wondering who was here. What is this dog? What are these smells?
Yeah.
I have to figure it out. He wasn't satisfied and he kept going. You know, so little fun things, and people are like,
Yeah.
oh, I could never do that. I couldn't either. I
Yeah,
have a
right.
lawyer brain.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
Yeah.
But it was fun to try something else, and then it gave the guardians peace of mind because their dog's happy and they know what happened. You know, like they want to know what actually happens on the walk. Pictures only
Yeah.
say so much.
Would you say most dog walkers forget that you know the people want to know what happened to the dog, or do most dog walkers do a good job of telling them, you know, here's what happened?
I think most dog walkers, it's not doing a good job, but I think some dog walkers really forget it. You know,
Oh,
because it's
so no, okay, yeah.
they're more it's more a job to them rather than a business, a passion, something fun to do, something challenging to grow them. So I think that maybe it's that perspective that I've noticed some dog walkers
Do
miss.
you view this as something challenging to grow you, the dog walking?
So I've had a lot of jobs. Okay, I've worked
Okay.
with a consulting company. I've worked service industry.
How'd you like consulting? I'm just curious. It's like business consulting?
It was more like lawyer consulting. So if people had trials.
Okay. How'd you like that though?
I liked it. It was. I feel like I hit my ceiling pretty quickly though.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And at the other
Good.
jobs that I was at, I also hit that ceiling pretty quickly. With dog care, I think what kept me in it for so long, because there have been some very frustrating moments.
Yeah.
There have been times where I am just running all day long to get to these dogs, and I'm stressed, and I literally forget to take a shower.
Yeah.
So for me, I think what kept me in it is I realized when you're in the dog care business and you raise your rates to this point, you naturally will attract people in societal positions of power, right? So doctors, attorneys,
Yeah.
People running for Senate.
Yeah. Do you have senators and stuff?
There was
Or
one
running for
person
Senate?
that
That's so
was
cool.
running for a position that was really interesting, and I said, wow, I've never met this type of person in my
Yeah.
everyday life.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to learn from those people and make a connection, but ultimately what it came down to was, okay, I am being challenged every day by a four-legged sentient being that has zero motivation to respect me,
Yeah.
you know, make my life easier. Like, they run their own world. So I learned how to be patient, you know? I learned how to cater to someone that's like a little grumpier.
Wow, you really did. This sounds like some BS resume interview, but you really did learn patience and stuff by dog walking, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was weird because in all of my other positions and these formal jobs and these 9-to-5s, I didn't really get that.
Yeah,
you know,
okay,
here
so
I
funny,
wasn't
yeah.
challenged enough, and I feel
Yeah.
like dog walking can be challenging when you have the very reactive, stereotypical pit bull, when you have the very shy little butterfly. So like, it not only made me a better person, better lawyer, more active, you know, more fit, but it also made
Yeah.
me more compassionate towards people, because I realized like humans are just like dogs, you know, they all have their quirks, their traumas, their irritations,
Yeah.
and I started applying it that way.
What? So, because again, I'm just curious. You said, learning about dogs helps you with like human psychology. Give me some examples of that, or yeah, if you can think of specific examples, or
absolutely.
just okay, good.
Absolutely. Okay,
Okay.
so I think for one example, if I'll have a dog that's boarding with me, I eventually
Which
expanded my
boarding
services.
means that they're gonna spend the night with you, right?
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
kind of like their own vacation.
Yeah.
So I eventually started expanding to daycare and boarding as well as the walks. And so
Okay.
if you have a dog boarding with you, right? And the dog is just so all out of sorts, you know? I've had dogs that are potty trained or house trained. No, they're not. Not when they get to me because they're nervous, you know? Like they're out of their element.
Yeah.
I started looking at people when they're in a situation with me, right? Or like interacting with people in law school, they're out of their element. They've never been here before, you know? Like this is scary, this is freaky.
That's so interesting.
And so what do? If you have a dog that's boarding with you, make them comfortable, give them things that they're used to. Dinner at the same time. Make it more exciting. Give them the cheese that mom and dad usually don't give them. When you're engaging with people in real life, you know, like encourage them in some kind of way.
God,
give them a piece of something that's the cheese, you know, give them a compliment, give them something to make them comfortable. So I started doing that a lot.
Yeah. Do you watch a lot of like animal documentaries, or have you like watched Planet Earth in school and stuff, or?
Nah, the most that I've watched is during finals. I really like to watch polar bears.
Oh, really?
I have this.
That seems like a brutal. What do you think about polar bears?
I think they're great. I feel like, you know, they're
even when they're like ripping apart a carcass alive. You know, it's like it's just nature.
But it's like it's the mom polar bear trying to get food for her cubs. Otherwise, they're not going to eat.
Yeah, I know.
You know, so it's kind of like it's a beautiful viciousness.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Okay, no, I think in Planet Earth or whatever. This is a tangent, but yeah, I just. Because you make me think of how many parallels are between, like, animal behavior and human behavior. And there's a ton of them. Like, I don't know, supposedly when, like, Jane Goodall studied all those chimps, people hated on her because she was like, oh, you keep ascribing, like, human personalities to these chimps. But nowadays we accept it. Nowadays we accept that these chimps feel like vanity just like we do. Or, like, envy just like we do. All these things just like we do. Yeah. But anyway, I just thought that was cool that you find a lot of parallels between human behavior and dog behavior. Can you give me another example aside from like some of the other element that you've kind of learned from dog walking? You know. I know it's hard to like on the spot think of some, but yeah, if you can.
I know that there's one, or I think it's something that actually got ingrained in me at some point. So when I was working with a lot of reactive dogs that would get angry or look like they're going to bite a dog. I slowly started to realize they're not angry, they're scared.
Oh, I've heard that about dogs.
Right,
right.
Yeah. And it's true with humans too.
That's so true with humans,
right?
Yeah.
And because I started doing self-reflection, I'm like, why am I so angry? I'm like, oh no, I'm actually scared. Like, I'm actually sad. Yeah. And like, I was just raised in a way where anger is accepted. Sadness and fear is weak. Yeah. So a lot of times then when I would go into courtrooms and I'm doing my legal internships and I'd see an angry attorney, I'd be like, they're new. They're just scared. So maybe if I encourage them and say, you're doing a great job, that diffuses the anger, right? Yeah. Because I do the same thing with the dog. I'm like, oh, good job. You didn't like this. And their personality would change completely. Yeah.
What is it about dogs that you can learn these lessons that are harder to learn with humans? Do you think it's just because they're so transparent, like easy to read? You know, kind of like infants almost.
They don't have societal constraints.
Yeah, well, that's like kind of
right.
I guess. Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah. I think you're right because when we're going into society, like you're talking about real estate and these jobs, you're expected to act a certain way. You have to be one of the white sheep. Yeah. Dogs are just completely black sheeps everywhere. They don't. They know they're cute. You know, they know they're gonna get love anyways. They're gonna get whatever they want. So there's no pressure on them to act a certain way, and I've seen that even when I'm taking care of a dog that's boarding with me for day one. Angel, perfect human, going to their 9 to 5, very respectful. By day 3, complete shit show. I mean, complete.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wait, so like you think that they basically like present a good face to you?
Absolutely. They mask like we do.
Oh,
you know?
I never had a dog growing up, so I haven't seen these. That's so interesting. Wow.
And it's so funny because it's just kind of like you're like, okay, I know you're being good, I know you're being nice, but by day 3 you're like running around. I had one dog eat my couch. I had you know like all this kind of stuff, but I just kind of accepted it because that's them saying I feel comfortable to be myself now. Yeah.
Well, I guess it's business. What did you do when the dog ate your couch? Did you have to charge the client, or like what happened with that?
So here's the thing: I can expense it, right? Whatever I'm going to end up paying, but comes off the taxes. But doesn't that only end up being like a fifth of what you paid for the couch, you know, or whatever? Right, because it just kind of reduces the taxes, doesn't it? So I think it depends, right? So I've had if a dog has an accident in my house, I ended up just buying one of those carpet cleaner machines,
Yeah.
and I expense that, right?
Oh,
But I did at one point. There was one dog that they promised was house trained, and I think the dog was maybe sick or something when I got them. And so they went number 1 and number 2 literally every single day.
Okay.
And so I communicated that to them.
Oh, like on your floor type thing?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And so I reached out to them and I said, you know what? I have to charge a cleaning fee.
Yeah.
Because my carpet was ruined.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that there's a little bit of kindness that gets inserted into that. Like, what is my line? What is my boundary line?
Yeah.
And so when the couch was ripped up and torn, I could easily sew it back together. I just had to pay $10 for a new cloth to kind of sew it back together.
Yeah.
And so is that something I'm going to charge? I'm going to communicate it to them.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they need to know about those things. But other things, it's kind of like if they destroy one of my dog's toys, it is what it is. Like, I'm not going to charge them for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So usually if it's like a small sub $20 thing, like you'll let them know, but you're not going to be petty and kind of charge them for it.
Right. And I think that's a great word, petty.
Yeah.
Like,
what about when you're charging lesser rates? Would you charge them for these toys and stuff or no?
I think it depends on your expectations and what you communicate going into it. So if I was charging the lesser rates and a toy gets ripped up, no, because I would expect a dog to rip up a toy. The toys aren't meant to be kept intact. Dogs love to destroy them. What about like couch or
something like that?
So if it was a couch, I think that the desperation and the financial pressure, I probably would have been more motivated to say like,
yeah, right.
Hey, this couch is destroyed. I wouldn't ask them, can you pay me $400 or $1,000 for a new couch?
Yeah.
But I'd say like, hey, it's gonna cost me $50, and I just don't have the money to cover that.
Dude, I think that's a lot of like seeing what we as middle class or whatever we are above middle class people, like we see poor people do things that we call immoral, but a lot of it is like you said, it's just desperation, you know?
Yeah.
Like a lot of what we think is like, oh, it's them, you know, and like their selfishness or their wanting to steal from people and stuff. A lot of it is like we're just not put in positions that we have to do those things, you know? We just like them. Yeah. There was one, I don't know, in like this famous book Republic, like one of the guys said he's like a very rich guy, and he was talking to this guy Socrates, who's all like high and mighty, and he was saying, well, I think like I'm such a good person basically because I'm rich. So like because of the fact that I'm rich, I never had to steal from anybody because I already had whatever I would steal from them. Like not because I'm a good person, I just like don't have anything to steal. Like I just don't have anything to, you know. But whatever. I thought that was interesting that you would charge people kind of for those petty things when you were making a lesser rate, but not so much now that you're making a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
Because I'm secure, you know? I don't feel like I need to depend on someone else to cover these things that pop up.
Yeah.
And something that kind of came along the way was I remember I was trying to control how many clients I would have, you know? And so I realized there's only so much you can do. Like I would hand out my cards to people. I would change my bio and all this kind of stuff. But for me, I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in the money chase that we forget like, hey, you're still living. You know, there's more to life than just trying to pursue this money. Yeah. And so I noticed, like, weirdly, whenever I studied and did my homework, I would get a new client. And whenever I wasn't studying, I wouldn't get a new client. And I started wondering, I'm like, is God bribing me with clients to do my homework? And it's really fun when you kind of start noticing these things rather than thinking, like, everything I do controls how much money I make. No, maybe there's something out there, the universe that's.
Do you think that's what it was? You think God or the universe was bribing you to do your homework?
Absolutely.
That simple?
Absolutely, because I started testing the theory and I started noticing it, and I think that when you notice the pattern, it's true.
And like the first couple of months, were you like, oh, this is enough that I don't want to have another job, or was it, you know, you're still wanting to have other jobs when you're doing it? Yeah.
So I think the first couple of months, I would say I probably wasn't making over $2,000. I would say truly, like it was like $1,000 maybe.
How many hours were you working a week at this point?
I want to say probably something around like probably 10-ish if we're including commute time, right? Because like I say, like also if you're if you're thinking about how much money you're making, you consider after taxes. Yeah. So for me, if I'm thinking about how many hours I'm working, I'm including commute time, how long it takes me to get there. Yeah. And I think that after some time, I was able to raise the prices and lower that amount of time that I had to put into it. But you know, everybody asks, like, when you start something and you start making good money, like it's instantaneous, or it should be coming right away. That wasn't the case for me. You know, I was happy making a few $100 and then $1,000. And I had to be patient with that, you know. And I think it's good that I was in that desperation point, because I wasn't greedy with it. I was motivated to make more and expand my business, but I wasn't saying like I should be making like $5,000. You know, it wasn't like that. It was like, wow, thank you. I'm so glad that somebody's helping me put food on my table, pay my rent.
Yeah. What was I gonna ask? Okay, so it was first couple months we were working less than like 10, 20 hours a week then.
Yeah.
Did you have another job, or were you studying at the time, or?
No, this was what I was doing, and so like this.
So you were not in law school. You weren't in any school at the time.
No.
Okay, nice.
No,
nice,
so this was my
cool.
chapter of just kind of finding myself, you know, like taking a break from always being in school, always working.
How long ago was this?
This was a few years.
3-4 years, something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then how long you've had the dog walking business specifically for 3 years almost, or what?
Right.
Okay. Whatever. Okay. Yeah. So first few months you make like a couple $1,000s a month. When were you kind of like, oh, this is what I can do for a job? And at that point, how much money were you making? And you're like, oh, this is kind of what I can do.
I think that really came for me during the summer, where I realized I was going through a couple other job application processes, and one of them required me to be physically fit. And so I started realizing, like, wow, wait, I'm being paid to prepare for what I think is a new job. And while I was doing that, I was taking on more clients, running more between clients. And so it got to the point where I said, whoa, like, I think I just made like close to like 4,000 that month. And that was good for me, because I didn't need a lot of money, right? Like
that's a good amount of money. Yeah.
I'm very frugal with what I spend. I don't really like to go out to eat. I like to eat things I make at home. So like for me, I was like, whoa, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable. I'm not working a lot. I have a lot of time to just, you know, explore my hobbies and interests and prepare my law school applications. Yeah. This is a pretty good gig. I'm not a millionaire, but this is what I would define to be as rich, because I had all the time that I wanted in the world.
Yeah. So how many hours do you think roughly were you working when you're making about $4,000 a month?
Still, I would say like less than 20.
Dude, nice. So you were making, oh yeah.
Like that's what I'm saying, you know? Yeah. Like I found a business model where I could charge people and I don't have to work so much, because the hourly rate was good. And a lot of it also came from like daycare and boarding was great, because the thing is, if you can, and you have to find dogs that are comfortable being home while you step out and walk, because you're making double money.
Oh, so you're able to do that?
Yes.
You're able to board a dog that dog sat at home while you took another dog to go walking? Oh,
and you have to be careful, because the goal of any dog care business that's successful is always take care of the dog first. Yeah. So if the dog has severe separation anxiety, you should not be doing this.
Do dogs have separation anxiety?
Really bad.
That's hilarious.
Really bad.
Yeah.
And
that makes sense. That's like how their whole life has just been with their human.
And unfortunately, and this hurts because I had to learn it for my own dog, is the humans are creating it.
Why?
Because there's a healthy balance to raising an independent dog to raising a dog that cannot function when you're not there. And it's kind of hard, right? So for me, with my dog, I remember when I first adopted him, I ended up having to go to work for something, and the second I closed the door, I heard him going, like really like distressed, like, oh my god, I'm gonna be alone, like I don't know this place, I don't know this person. And so for me, there was something in me that just said, you cut this in the butt right now.
This when you dropped him off somewhere?
This was when he came to live with me. I adopted him, and it was the first time I had to leave him home alone. The first time I stepped out the door. And I opened that door, and I said in a very mean, very stern voice, no. Yeah. And this dog looked at me, and he was like, oh, okay. And so I set the tone from the beginning. Yeah. I will not tolerate this whining, this barking, this kind of behavior of like, you can't handle being home alone. Go take a nap. And so a lot of that was on me. I had to tire out my dog. I can't just leave my dog home alone with nothing to do. How would you feel if you were just in an apartment where you can't go on your phone,
Yeah,
you can't use Wi-Fi, you can't watch TV,
and all the like toys are not made for you, and
and you're supposed to restrain yourself.
Yeah, right.
Like that's stressful.
Yeah, that is.
You can't eat the couch. The couch looks fun.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, that'd be having a treadmill or something like that you can run on. But isn't that a lot of what people love about dogs is that they come home and they're like, oh my god, I can't wait till my human's here.
Absolutely.
So when you say you told him no, doesn't that take out some of the joy of you having a dog when you coming home and he's so happy to see you and stuff?
It does. It does, and it's kind of a pick and choose what kind of life you want to live. For me, I could not handle the stress and the irrational fear that I'm going to get kicked out of my apartment if this dog barks. And that's something very real for everyone. And I also didn't want it to be where this dog is distressed. Like for me, it was kind of like, the dog is so happy when I'm coming home if I don't do this, but they're miserable when I'm gone. I wanted to set something in place and assert one boundary of like, you cannot just completely lose your marbles. Yeah. It's kind of like, to parallel an extreme example, it's like if somebody becomes a widow. If that person's spouse is watching over them as a guardian angel, do you think that they want them to be completely distressed and grieving for the rest of their life? No, you have to make sure they're not too dependent on that other person.
That's interesting. So do you think your dog is happier now that you have, you made him not so whiny when you leave? Do you think he's overall happier because of that?
Yes, because he's more confident. He feels like he has a job to do, right? So the thing that I've learned with dogs is they have nothing to do compared to us. We have jobs. We have like social friends.
They just all their food is just
right. Like we have exercise. We have workouts. We are so lucky as a species because we're constantly stimulated, challenged. Like we can do whatever we want. We have a lot of autonomy. Dogs, they're like, so you just want me to like stay here? And so he has a job now, and I would even tell him in full sentences. Before I leave, I'd be like, I need you to watch the house. Oh, okay. And you can tell, like, a lot of people think like, oh, dogs understand English perfectly. Dogs understand Spanish perfectly. Whatever language you speak to them, they can't speak back. But they get it. So like I would kind of give him those things, and he'd feel so proud. He'd come home and he'd see, oh, I didn't eat anything. I didn't rip anything. Human's happy. They're very people-pleasing. So give them something to work with. When I'd come home and I'd see that he ripped up something, right, that he got into, like a piece of paper that I left out, I would be very angry. And so I had to kind of learn of, okay, you need to communicate to the dog, what kind of person do you want to be? Do you want to be the person that yells? I didn't like that. Do you want to be the person that ignores the dog so they understand they don't get your attention? I could live with that. Because eventually he stopped ripping the stuff up because he's like, oh my god, mom's not happy to see me. I did something. And they know. They know, like they know what they did. Some people will argue like the time lapse is too much. Like, oh, if you don't correct them right away. No. Your dog knows he ripped something up. You've told him like 20 times stop doing it. They get it. They know. So I don't know. I think that's the only caveat, like I always mention about separation anxiety for people that are starting this business, is if you have dogs that don't need you home 24/7, like you can step out for that one quick walk and come home. So like while you have the money from the daycare or the boarding, then you also have money as well from that walk. It's like doubling the money.
Totally.
And the best thing is when you can bring the dogs and you do pack walks.
Oh, that's why. That's why you see these people walking off like 20 dogs. They're dog walkers.
Exactly.
Because
okay,
that makes
all
sense.
money at the same time. So like for me, a lot of my boarding clients, they're friendly dogs. So I will just bring them to my dog walks with the other dog, and they love it. I mean, the dogs love when they have like an entourage to walk with. They feel
like
so cool.
Like they're like
yes, you can feel it.
Down the
you
street.
can feel it off of them. They're all like excited.
Dude.
They're like, whoa, this is cool. This is cool.
Dude, I remember being in like middle school, like just riding your bikes with all your friends down the street, like you get an energy,
That's
it's
exactly
like me
it.
and the gang, we're going somewhere.
That's exactly it. Yep.
So it wasn't too long. It was a few months, 4 or 5 months into it, and you're like, okay, I can actually do this full time. I can make good money doing this if I want to. So like 4 or 5 months, you bumped it up to 25. Give me like a schedule of like how you got all the way up to 65.
Okay, so I would say probably I got really very irritated very quickly. So I would say like I was charging the $19 for maybe the first 3 walks, and I said no, we got to go up to like 22.
Okay.
So that was probably like within the first month. After I got those 3 reviews, I said, okay, time to go. Right?
Yeah.
You don't want to drag it out too long.
Yeah.
And then the demand kept coming in. So it got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm doing a good job. I'm getting these reviews. I have too much, and I don't want to really be working with so many dogs right now because I still have my own things going on, my own hobbies like law school applications. So let me raise the price to filter out some people who, are looking for something cheaper. So I think I bumped it up to like $25. That was probably within like the first 2, 3, 4 months. And then I dragged a little bit in those 2, 3, 4 months when I probably could have raised it a little bit higher sooner. And then I bumped it up to 30 by the time I got to the summer. Because I realized I'm like, I have steady regulars. And what's so great about this business is you do a good job the first time, the dog's coming back.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it also doesn't really matter so much about your pricing.
Why do you say that the dog's coming back, do you think?
Because the guardians want their dog to feel happy, safe, and comfortable.
Yeah.
And it's harder for a dog to create a new relationship with like new people and figure them out and get an understanding.
But I mean, the guardians can tell when their dog's vibing with the dog walker from day one. Because you said that similarly. You basically said that, right?
So, I think the guardians sometimes are a little naive, and I speak from personal experience.
Yeah, I could assume that. Yeah.
So my dog, when I boarded him with somebody that I found on Rover, came home with a bloody gash wound in his head that the boarder said nothing to me about.
Really?
And sent me really nice pictures. My dog was playing with the dogs. Nothing, but I had this feeling, right? And then I heard the thoughts kick in that were trying to justify it. Like, oh, maybe you're reacting. Maybe it was something. I said, listen, this voice needs to shut up. Under no circumstance, if my kid came home with a head wound, would I say that it's okay. Yeah. So I think that a lot of times, like as a dog guardian, like there's just so much to navigate. It's like being a parent that you'll let a lot of things go. So I think that's kind of like the hard part too. I started trusting my intuition where I said, okay, somebody charging me only $20 after taxes is going to be kind to my high energy dog? Absolutely not. Yeah. It's kind of like that thing. So I don't know if dog guardians can always tell. I think that maybe they can tell, but they ignore it.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Do you have a lot of like trouble dogs? Like I just see like YouTube videos. Well, okay, this is a question. Do you think pit bulls are more aggressive, whether or not it's nature or nurture? Do you think 1,000 pit bulls are more aggressive than 1,000 like of any other dog?
What do you mean by aggression?
So like more likely to just attack something that did not want to fight.
Like bite, harm a dog.
Yeah, like harm something.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I asked that because there's 2 types of aggression. There's very strong, almost like masculine testosterone type of aggression, and then there's like mean predatory aggression.
Yeah, I mean like predatory. I want to hurt that thing. Yeah.
I think.
So I talked to my friend about this, and I don't know about dogs, but I say it seems like that, but yeah.
So my dog is a pit bull mix.
Okay.
And he has never harmed a dog, and he has aggression, but not predatory aggression. Yeah. I think truly that there's some truth to the fact that some pit bulls have just been raised in their genes to be aggressive dogs, to be fighting dogs, to be protective dogs. And I think there is truth to the whole idea of nature, their temperament, what were their parents like. It's like humans, right? Okay. Unfortunately, we're like our parents. We try not to be, or we try to be, but like it's something in our genes. So I do agree with that, but I think that nurture completely overrides that. Okay. If you are consistent, you actually try.
Yeah, as someone who was some degree of expertise, I was just curious. But it's okay. So like a solid 3-4 months, and I charge like $35, $40 an hour, something like that. And like a year later, you're charging like $50 an hour, or what? Like how long in it were you charging $50 an hour?
So let me clarify. So the prices I'm giving you, like the 19 to the 22, this is for 30 minutes. It's not for hour.
Oh,
So,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, like,
So when you say 65, that's for half an hour.
no, 65 now is per hour.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
I kind of capped
Just,
it off.
yeah.
I got to the point where I was like, okay, I think that this is the sweet spot where the demand slowed down.
Yeah.
I wasn't getting that many new requests.
Yeah.
I think people just don't have the ability to afford higher than that.
Yeah.
And I think that it would be a little bit egregious to charge a little bit more. Like there's almost a respect that I put into my business model. I'm sure I could charge $100 per hour and people would pay me.
$100, I think you could charge $100.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Right?
Okay.
And especially a lot of times with these
Wow.
more
That's so
troubled
cool.
dogs.
Okay, yeah.
Right? But then
Yeah.
you get to the point where you're like, whoa, have I lost my way? And you're
What do
like,
you mean you
is
lost
this
your
only
way?
about the money?
But can't you charge $100 and still do just as good a job walking as if you charge $65 an hour and just a nice, good for the universe job?
I can't. Because something about my action communicates to me it's about the money.
Oh, okay.
And it's
Just
weird.
I
I
get
started
that. No, I
I started
understand that.
picking this up and I said, whoa, okay, like I remember one year on Christmas I charged $199 for boarding.
Yeah.
And I had several dogs staying with me.
Yeah.
And my whole day, my whole Christmas was just about walking these dogs, like a lot of
Sure,
stress, getting the
yeah.
other ones, and I was like, whoa, but what happened to Christmas? But it's okay because it's the money.
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe it would have been nice if I charged a little bit less dogs,
Yeah.
and just enjoyed my day. There's something about my action that changed my perspective and stuff. So,
Okay.
I don't know. I think that for me, I found my sweet spot where I felt like I was charging a fair price that was, remember, like double what everyone else is charging.
65 is roughly?
I would say I've met
Oh,
people
really? I
who
didn't know
charge
that
maybe
much
like
more.
40
Oh, okay.
for an hour.
So 65 is like a solid 2 standard deviations away from what most people are
Absolutely.
charging. Oh, okay.
Absolutely,
okay,
right?
okay.
And you have to remember when you're going into any business, you have to consider the market. I think I encourage everyone, you always want to be in the top percentage of that market. Right? Because you have to communicate
So just
that's
in
what you
like
offer.
most like the group of dog workers, it's charging like about $30 an hour. Did you say?
I would say like 40. I've heard
Okay,
40 is
okay.
kind of closer to the average rate.
Okay. Cool.
Just because 20 is like the 30-minute mark, maybe 25,
Yeah.
and then you like want them to walk a little longer. They value themselves at like $40 is what I've seen and heard.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was curious. I didn't mean to cut you off, but so it's been just basically once you get the $65 mark, how long did it take you to charge people $65 an hour? And do you think you could have done it quicker? And do you wish you had done it quicker if you could?
No, I don't wish I would have done it quicker. I think that probably close to, I'm just gonna say like 8 months is when I started hitting it. And
Oh wow! Oh,
like-
I was thinking like a couple of years.
No,
Dude,
not at all.
nice.
Not at all.
Dude, that's so cool. Wow.
Right?
Awesome.
So
yeah.
because it was like, one, I had so many regulars coming back.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't really an issue. The only time I don't have regulars is if somebody's like out of town or somebody really truly prices what distinguishes them and what they really need.
Sure.
Like they just need something more affordable, and I was just a
Yeah.
last minute option for them at one time.
Yeah.
But I got to that mark, and then I said, okay, like this is pretty good. I noticed that a lot of the demand and the new requests slowed down, so I said this is the number. And I rely on my regulars and I rely on my past clients.
Yeah.
And then there's the new clients that I lock into that price rate. So I also was very respectful, right? If I had somebody, I still have one client where they are a $20 rate. If I walk that dog for 30 minutes every so often, it's $20. It's not 35.
Yeah.
It's kind of like respecting, like,
No,
thank
I know,
you
yeah.
for supporting me in the beginning.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And I think sometimes I have had to make the decision of like,
Yeah,
this
right.
is really a pain. But I think it's just, I don't know, it's my inner appreciation of like, thank you for supporting me. Like, you really helped me get to this point.
Yeah. So were you living in a pretty metropolis, whatever the word is, metropolitan area, and do you think someone can basically make it up to $65 an hour, assuming they have the skills and everything that you do and care or whatever? Do you think they could do that basically in the suburbs, or do you think you have to be downtown to be able to be this successful doing dog walking?
Interesting. I think it depends on the suburb, right? So the reason that this business has been so successful,
Yeah.
got it, is
I agree,
because Chicago people have money,
Yeah.
and you can't expect people to pay you $65 an hour if they don't have $65 to pay. But in the suburbs, I think that absolutely you can market it as like a pack walk, right? Where you say, hey, I know these 3 neighbors, they have dogs.
Yeah.
They gotta go to work. I'm happy to
that's
walk
clever,
your
yeah.
3 dogs at the same time.
Yeah.
And then that's 20. You make $60
Yeah.
in that 30-minute range,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think that you have to shift the strategy to meet the demographic that you're at. But absolutely in the suburbs, you gotta have balls. Like, you have to actually like hand out your card, talk to people, you know, and that's a little scary.
Dude, I remember this kid I went to middle school with, like 6th, 7th grade. Dude, he was making like $30-40 mowing these people's lawns. And I'm like, dude, I'm making $15 mowing mine the neighbors. And I was like, dude, what do you do? And he's like, bro, what do you mean? I just walk around the block and see who wants to pay me to mow their lawn. If they say 30, I say, what about 40? And most of the time, I just abuse the kid has the balls to do that. And they're like, yeah, sure, bro, we'll pay you $40.
Exactly.
But yeah, I've learned this lesson so many times in my life. You gotta have the balls to just do it. Just ask them or just go out there and charge whatever, you know.
And I think you latched on to something that we didn't talk about is people were happy to help me. They're like, a law student, I want to help her, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I know whenever, there's this one restaurant I really like in Chicago, and when I go in...
Can you name it?
I think it's called Cortino.
Oh, Quarantino. Yeah. In the West Loop or no?
No, it's down here. Sorry. It's like the Gold Coast dish area. I think it's on
It's
stage.
like a black with white text on it or no?
I think it's an Italian restaurant run from the Gibson's company.
Oh, okay. I am thinking that place.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So what I really like about it is when I go in there, I see the girl behind the bar, and she's this cute little college girl that has big dreams, and you know, like she's doing this to make money.
Yeah.
That's my kind of person because I've been her.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so cool to be on the other side and be like, I want to help you. Yeah, maybe like usually I tip $5, but like I like you. I want to pay you. So if people like you or you give them something to latch onto, it's not that they're paying you to walk their dog. Like they're also like supporting your dream.
Definitely think that's a thing. I've actually started telling people more often, like, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be successful, you know, because people love that, dude. Especially successful people. Like successful people want to help other people be successful. The vast majority of them want to help people. They're not like arrogant, selfish pricks, you know? Like most of them want to help people. So I'm kind of cold too because I'm sitting right by the window. But so you told us it was like about 4 months or something like that, and you charged us $65 an hour?
I think it's closer to like 8 months.
Oh, okay, maybe that's
is when I remember locking into that price. And then in terms of boarding, I started lower. I think it was like $70-ish for the whole day.
Yeah,
and now I feel like my sweet spot ended up getting to like 125 to 150 range. It depends because a lot of my clients are some regulars for boarding. So like I have one giant golden retriever that I love, and he's 125, and then I have newer clients that are like 145.
Okay. Well, I asked this, now something else. What have you had any like really problem dogs, like really problem clients? If so, anything like anyone that you had to like turn down completely and say no, I can't take your dog?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I think it was a me thing. It wasn't the dog. And I think that's important when you're going to business. Like you got to realize like I can't do a good job with this certain type of dog. You know, like I'm not the person to talk to this type of person.
Like you got to turn a client down or something.
Yeah. And so I would say that I take almost every single dog. Like truly, like I'm not afraid of their behaviors, and I saw that as like a personal growth opportunity, right?
Yeah.
I said like I'm gonna take on the challenge and I'm gonna figure it out. But with one dog, I remember this was earlier on, maybe like at the 4-month mark, where I got the request. The dog was sweet, right? The dog wasn't reactive or anything, but the tugging, oh my goodness. Like my arm was just tugged off so much, and I realized that it was just so overly stimulating for me at that point in my journey, right? That I communicated to them and I said, I thank you so much for like letting me walk your dog. It was nice to meet them. I have to be honest, like it's just so much high energy tugging of lack of respect or awareness, you know, maybe not respect, but awareness that the dog had for me, that I said like, I don't think I'm right now emotionally in a state to deal with a dog like that. Now I have so many clients that are like that, but at the 4-month mark, I'm glad that I said no, because that dog deserved to be with someone that can handle that more so at that point, and that wasn't me.
Okay, I want to ask this because I will definitely like make a clip out of this. But so you went to school for accounting for 4 years, right? And you
Yeah.
graduate with an accounting degree.
Yeah.
And tell us how you do your accounting. So you spent 4 years with assets equals liabilities. Tell us how you do your accounting for your business now after 4 years. Yeah.
I do not hire an accountant.
Yeah.
And I do not keep track of everything. What I do is very streamlined. I learned very quickly that there is no expertise that you need to tracking how much money came in and how much did you spend relating to the business. That is it. There's no assets, there's no liability, there's
Yeah.
no nonsense, right? Because my business is very streamlined. That's all that I have to consider, and that's specifically why I chose this business. I didn't want all the crazy technical stuff.
Yeah.
So for me, what I do is I know that 4 times a year I have to pay my self-employment taxes.
Yeah.
So what I do is I have 3 sources of income accounts. I have my Zelle linked to one bank account. I have my Venmo,
Yeah.
and that goes into the same bank
Yeah.
account. And then I have cash.
App or cash? You mean?
Cash.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I've had some people use like Apple Cash, but I just didn't want that 4th stream, so that's only like the last thing. I tell
Okay.
people you can pay me Zelle, Venmo, or cash.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what I do is when it's self-employment taxes time, right, 4 times a year,
Yeah.
I just go through all of my Zelle
Yeah.
and I ignore the Venmo transfers. I then go through my Venmo
Yeah.
so I can see directly, and then I look at my pile of cash for that quarter, and then I write it down. I do 33% of that, and I pay it.
Yeah.
And that's it. And so then when I go, like, I don't do the estimates of the expenses, just because I feel like I would rather overpay my taxes and get a refund than
Yeah, I'm the
underpay.
same way, yeah, dude.
You
I'm
know,
not
you
fine
don't
with
you
that.
don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
It's stressful. It sucks to lose like a bigger chunk, but it's just not
Yeah.
worth it. And then at the end of the year, when taxes are actually due, like that following April, then what I do is the same thing. I go through all of my Zelle more meticulously, right?
Yeah.
For me, I'm always preparing for any kind of audit. So what I'll do is I'll actually have an Excel doc when I'm doing my taxes rather than just the income take, and I'll just say like, okay, income, Zelle this amount, Zelle this
Yeah.
amount, and on these dates.
That's how it get. Oh, so you
That's it.
will make a doc and list out every single transaction
For
in that Google sheet or whatever.
For me, because I don't know if you actually have to, because you could do this. You still have that
You
bank
can just add
account.
up the number, right? Or sorry.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. For me, it's 3 years from now. If I do get audited, for any reason, it could be a random audit, it could be
Nice.
something.
Yeah.
Do I want to do that then, or would I rather just do it now?
Yeah.
Like, so it's more of a gift to my future self to do it now,
Yeah.
where I just transcribe that into there.
Are audits that common?
I've never been audited, but I don't think I
Okay.
have a reason to be audited.
Yeah.
I also don't know if you're making like thousands of bucks with the dog care business that you're
Are they
really like
gonna care?
the big
Or-
fish in the sea.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it does happen. Like I remember there was one period where I took some time off from work because I had a lot going on with school.
Yeah.
And so I didn't pay self-employment taxes because it said that you didn't really meet a certain criteria to like
Yeah.
shove it out,
Yeah.
right? But then I got a letter that said, hey, you underpaid for this quarter. For me, was it worth explaining and arguing, no, I just didn't work that quarter, you know, like I took time off,
Yeah.
or just pay the extra $250 they asked me for. I just paid the $250, you know, and just like
Okay.
ate that cost.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing like I've ever run into. I've never had issues. I make all of my expenses, right? So the dog care
I
business.
was gonna ask you, do you end up expensing a lot?
I've expensed
Like
at
you
my
spend a lot
leisure.
of time writing down all your expenses and
No,
stuff.
God, no. Everything's on Amazon. Right?
Oh, okay.
I have certain
so
I
you don't
have
really even take pictures of receipts and stuff like that, because everything's just on Amazon.
I can pull it from Amazon whenever I need the receipts. If
Oh,
I
that's
get
kinda
audited.
smart. Just buy everything from one source. And
Exactly,
then, yeah.
exactly,
Okay, yeah.
right? And
Oh,
what
yeah.
better place than Amazon? So
Yeah,
if I
totally,
need like
yeah.
a leash or a prong collar for training or that kind of stuff. And then for me, if I'm ever buying treats, it's as simple as like, let's say I go to the store and I buy a banana so that I
Yeah.
can like treat the dog with the banana.
Yeah.
I take that receipt and I put it in a little bag and that's it. And that's
Oh,
where I
okay.
know. Those are all of my dog only receipts and I put it to the side. So I only have 2 places to check, right? Amazon and these dog receipts.
Yeah. And you do. So you're telling me you literally keep a pile of cash for the quarter. Like
Yeah.
you literally keep it in a physical pile in your room somewhere. And
Yeah.
Then, yeah. I mean that's okay because you have the money you can spend comes from Venmo and stuff like that, so you just don't need to touch the cash. When you started off, did you ever need to touch the cash at first, or?
Yeah,
No?
definitely,
Oh,
definitely,
okay,
right?
okay,
Because
so
this
you
was my only
Have
source
the
of
luxury
income.
to do that now. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So for me now, the reason that I like to do it that way is because I put the cash on the side. That's accounted for in taxes,
Yeah.
and then that goes straight to the savings piggy bank. I don't touch it. I don't spend it.
Oh yeah.
Right? Because you have
Well,
that physical, and there's something that's like fun about doing it, where my brain locks
Totally,
in,
right,
like, oh
yeah.
yeah, don't touch the piggy
Oh,
bank.
totally, there is.
Right?
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
force yourself to save money. If you have Apple Pay and you have it in your bank, you're like, oh, I can put
Yeah.
it back. You don't put it back.
Yeah.
You don't.
I would ask what are your investments? You just buy a lot of stocks, or like what of your money that is invested? If you don't mind telling, like what are you invested in? Just like the S&P fund or what?
I'm not in that realm.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
for me, I dabbled. I read a lot of the books, right? Like Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
I haven't read that one yet. What
Really?
are there? No, I've heard it's good. Is it good?
I think that it was productive. I think it opened my mind a little bit.
It's worth a read, you'd say for sure, right?
So for me, like it just got. What was really helpful about me reading these different books is I started realizing, okay, there's a lot you can do, but just like with a business, you got to figure out what's for you. So for me,
Yeah.
I am risk averse. I see the stock markets more akin to gambling.
Yeah.
And I
mean,
don't
it is.
have, anybody in my life to like reduce that risk for me, explain it to me, walk me through it, handle it for me, like that kind of stuff. And so it's not something I'm drawn to. I think I invested in one company for just
Yeah.
a couple $100, and I never went back to it because it didn't feel right for me.
Yeah.
I don't have that part of my brain unlocked. I don't have the expertise. So for me, instead, is I've more so noticed I'm really drawn to real estate. I'm really drawn to Airbnb.
Nice.
I'm really drawn to
Fuck yeah,
apartment
dude.
renting.
Fuck yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I realized the only thing that I don't
Bro, that's-
have
yeah.
to kind of launch that is the income.
Yeah.
So that's me saying, don't worry, we're glad you've identified this is your type of investing.
Yeah.
Wait until you're an
So
attorney.
cool. Yeah.
Right? So when I'm an attorney, that becomes my side hustle. The dog business kind of draws back. I
Yeah.
let it go, and
Yeah.
then that becomes it.
Yeah. Dude, that's so cool. So many people don't realize you can put your 401k, you can self-direct your 401k and just put all in real estate if you want to. Like people don't. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do like that.
See, and you have
yeah.
something that I just did not understand whatsoever.
Dude, well, I was very
Right?
lucky
Like
that
you
I
have
like.
that brain. You have
No,
that.
I don't. Well,
that
I
niche.
hate that. I hate that stuff. I just happened to study for like the Series 7, like the stockbrokers exam. Oh, okay, it doesn't matter. It's just like a thing you have to take if you want to be a stockbroker. I was very lucky that I just like happened to study for that at one point in my life, and so now I have like some good knowledge, you know. But so most of your money you're just kind of holding in cash right now until you invest in like an apartment or a duplex or something cool like that.
There is one person that I respect for financial advice, and his name is Alex Hormozy. And
Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah.
this guy nailed it.
What did he
He
say?
gets it. He knows it. If you can put aside your pride and recognize this is a genius teaching me and I should do what this guy says, that is the only person that I've encountered in all of my book reading, YouTube watching, all that kind of stuff where I says, this guy's not full of it. He
Yeah.
gets it and he knows it. So one thing that I remember when I read one of his books, when I was kind of hearing his things, like his little short reels even, is you need to learn to invest in yourself.
Dude, I saw that too from him.
And you
Dude,
have,
huh.
once you really truly understand this and experience it, you get why he's saying it and why it's right. So I'll give an example. For me, when I started making this money, I had extra. And I was like, wow, this is so nice for one of the first times in my life. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
paycheck to paycheck like my parents have lived. Like, this is so phenomenal. I was happy with my extra $200. I was happy with $3,000 in my bank.
Yeah. Dude, hell yeah.
And I had to think about, do I want to invest in a random company and hope that it works out?
Yeah.
Or am I going to take $200 and I'm going to buy Rosetta Stone? And I'm going to take $200. I'm going to buy some kind of Spanish learning thing. And then, in the long run, I'm going to be able to speak to Spanish speakers. I can market myself as an attorney that speaks fluent Spanish and get higher paying jobs
Yeah.
because I am an asset to them. Or I'm going to take that $400 and put it in a stock
Yeah.
and hope it works out in like 10 years.
Yeah.
And so I think that really epitomizes the investing in yourself. So for me, a lot of the investing in myself was, it's time to go to Whole Foods. It's time to eat the healthier foods. I need to clean up my diet, certain foods. We were talking a little bit about this, right? For me, sugar was like a huge part of my life, and money sucker. Yeah. You know, it's like, oh, I have to get the $5 brownie. Like, I'm treating myself.
Oh, you're one of those, the bakery items and stuff.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. I was never
like,
one of those, but okay.
You know, like it
nice
was
cupcakes and stuff.
It's the instant gumball machine reward of like, I did a good job today. I should go spend the money that I earned. Yeah. And you have to like hold that captive and be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Do I want to spend the money on the $5 brownie right now? Is it actually going to make me feel better? Is it going to make me tired, sluggish, lazy, go to sleep? Yeah. You know? And so I started realizing food for me. Like, I wanted to invest in my health. I needed to go buy a gym membership for $99 because I feel great. I'm motivated. My energy's higher when I'm working out. And I don't like to work out alone. I like the socialization of it. I like seeing people around me, you know? Yeah. So, like, I think that when it comes to investing, there's no shame in not being a stock investor or real estate investor if you're pouring into yourself. And if you don't have the money, you have the time. Yeah. You know, there's free resources for everything.
Oh, totally, there's free resources for everything.
And sometimes free is better than what you pay for. Yeah. You know? Like, even experience. So, if you don't have the money to invest in yourself, go out and learn rejection therapy. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I think that's very cool. I'm a big believer in that stuff. And maybe it was Alex Hormozy that shifted that. But like a couple of years ago, I was like, wait, I am kind of like, why not buy a new pair of running shoes instead of a share of Procter & Gamble? You know, like, why not buy, you know, something like that? Yeah. Okay, well, I guess we kind of should wrap up soon. But I just think that's hilarious. So you did go to accounting school for 4 years, and all your accounting is basically just a Google sheet. You don't even use like the assets equals liabilities equation. No. So we can say that you've gone to school for 4 years, and in your own company, you don't even use that equation they teach everybody. No. You just put it in a Google spreadsheet.
No, and I say that because I am really of the opinion that everyone deserves to start a business if they want to. And it is so ridiculous, like these hoops and formalities that they kind of put on you. Look at me, right? Look at me. And I use none. I truly mean this. I use not a lick of my business degree to actually accomplish this business.
I love that, yeah.
So it's like, I want to encourage people, like, I can encourage any law student, any grad student, any college student to make $65 an hour, where you don't feel like you have to pay ramen to, like, feed you. You know, you can pay for nicer things. You can enjoy life while you're in college and not be stressed, because money is a huge stressor while everyone's in college. Yeah. And so, like, I would love to encourage anybody, like, look at how I did it. You know, you start at a certain point. I don't know what to write for my bio for a dog care business. Look at everybody else. Yeah. There is so much truth to, don't bother reinventing the wheel. You can tweak the wheel, but just take somebody else's wheel and attach it to your own car. You know, write what they wrote in their bio. You see they have great reviews. Yeah. Something's working. And then you learn from that point. You know, you start raising your prices. You start differentiating yourself. Maybe you don't write the stories. Maybe you give them a little Polaroid picture.
Last year. Oh wait. So how much are you making right now? Like, how much did you make past couple months? Cause she's cool telling us. So yeah.
So really I feel like when I just paid or estimated myself income taxes.
Super rough. You know?
So I made around 14,000 ish for the past 3-ish months. Okay. And this is probably one of my slowest seasons. Okay. So I was doing 2 internships the past 3 months. Which is crazy. So I would say that
I have 2
law internships. So those were both around like 30 hours total of my week.
Dude, good for you. Okay. Yeah.
So doing an actual like unpaid job, right, of 30 hours per week, I made still $14,000 in 3 months.
Dude, nice.
Like what a luxury, right?
Yeah.
You know, like I also am the type of person who will get hung up on the number for a long time, and then I said, wow, but considering everything else I'm doing, that's phenomenal. And I did have to turn down clients. I actually had to hire an employee where I will assign certain walks to them because I can't make it because I had my internship. Yeah, so that was really cool to kind of like also enjoy the expansion point where now I'm like, wow, I can take more clients because I have someone I trust to take over walks when I don't want to or can't.
How much would you say you could pull right now if you put all your energy towards this and you were at no internships? Really, really roughly. Like, if someone has the skills you're doing this, you know,
you
really,
mean
really
like,
roughly.
You
Like,
mean
if you're just to go
bypassing
hard.
if money
Like,
was
yeah,
the
if you
only
didn't
thing?
do school, yeah, money. Well,
Okay.
no. Let's say if you wanted to work less than 50 hours a week, how much could you make a month if you want to work less than 50 hours a week? So you still
Okay.
want to work a little more than most people, but yeah.
Okay. One, I would never in my life work more than 40 hours in a dog care business. It's not worth it. And we're not considering
okay.
the boarding, right? Like that.
Oh yeah.
I don't count
You're
those
right.
hours.
Yeah,
I'm talking like
I'm
walks.
talking
Do I want to walk
that
40
too.
hours a week? No.
But if you did, that's just.
So you're saying if I did want to work 40 hours per week.
Yeah. How much could you make?
And respecting the fact that I also have to get these clients, it's not like those 40 hours just fill themselves up.
But right now, I'm assuming you could get whatever extra clients if you wanted to get you up to that point within like a month or two.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. So then let's just say hypothetically, you had all these clients already. I'm just, I want people to be inspired.
I truly think so. I'll give an example of, for reference, when I had this Christmas time of the Christmas, what I call my personal Christmas nightmare, because it wasn't a Christmas, I made $5,000 in 5 days.
Okay, yeah.
Because I had 5 dogs staying with me. Each dog was $199. Okay, that's $1,000 per day, right?
Holy shit!
And I also had a few walks.
Yeah.
On those days too.
Yeah.
So that means I cleared $5,000 in a week.
So
I would say if I really put all of my effort
Yeah.
into this and made this my 100% full time to the level that I'm doing, I could easily make $10K a month. Easily.
Yeah.
You can make 6 figures in this business.
So you can make like $200,000 a year if you really wanted to. Which
Depends
is only
on the
like
clients.
6K or no, that's more than 6K.
Depends on if you're booked for every single holiday, for sure. But I always kind of taper it off because I think that a lot of times when we're entrepreneurs, we get wrapped up in the potential of oh my gosh, I can make 6K, 200. Do you want to?
I know you were talking
at
about
the
that,
cost
right?
of your life, your time, your hobbies. Because if
time with friends,
if I'm making $20K a month, what am I missing out on? I have money, but I don't have time with family.
Yeah.
I have money, but I don't get to see new sides of me doing different things. So I feel like this is the range. You could make $500 to probably $10K a month, depending on how much energy you put into it. And I think that's what I emphasize. This isn't a business where you have to have the knowledge, you have to have this. You have to have the energy and the drive. This is truly an effort-based build. That's how I built mine, because I gave a shit.
What do you think, if I were to just quit all my stuff, if I were just only do dog walking now, as someone who's never had a dog before, do you think it would take an extra couple months to get that intuitive understanding of dogs, of dog walking? Basically, how long? Yeah. For me, who's someone never ever had any dog before, give me a realistic answer to how long I could do this before I could make frickin' 10K a month from the dog walking.
Okay. I think that it would probably, for $10K a month, and you have no experience.
Close to that, yeah. No experience at all, yeah.
I think within a year, absolutely you can.
Yeah.
And especially on the months where there's a holiday, but you have to know yourself, right? That's the key to any kind of entrepreneurial venture that you take. You will probably never have my intuitive understanding, because I explained how I have something separate from these dogs that I brought into my business. But you could have more patience.
Or some other thing that comes up.
You have a lot of energy. You have a lot of positive energy.
Yeah.
The dogs would love to be around you. You would love to run around and walk them and take them to
see
dog
that.
parks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you have to make sure that when you're coming into this, you know your strengths, right? And so that's what you're going to pull. And that's what you're going to bring in. And that's what you're going to communicate. So I think the biggest hurdle for anyone that's not in the dog care business and that has never had a dog in their life is, why should I trust you?
Yeah.
How can you communicate to me that you're a trustworthy person? And people do it all the time. Just look at the other Rover profiles.
Yeah.
The best thing you can do is, have you ever watched a dog growing up? Have you ever interacted with dogs? Do you just really love dogs and wish you had more dogs in your life?
Yeah.
Are you preparing for a dog that you're probably going to have with your future spouse?
Yeah,
People are like, oh, I get it. This actually matters to you. I can trust you.
Yeah.
And that's how you grow it, right?
Okay, yeah.
But you also have to respect, and here's the one caveat I'll always say. If life doesn't want you to do it, it's not going to give you it.
Yeah.
If life has something better for you, it won't work out. So you have to go into it with understanding of give 100%, And if it's not working out, it's either you got to wait a little longer, or you got to accept, like, your God, your universe, your life says, I appreciate the effort and I'm going to reward you for this, but, like, I have other plans for you. So that's my thing. I could make the 10K, but life wants me to be an attorney.
Yeah.
There's somebody out there that needs me one day.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have to prioritize being a lawyer every single day, my studies every single day over the money.
Yeah.
And it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
Because, like, who wouldn't want 10K? And how fun is this, like, building your business?
Yeah. Do you think one day it'll just be a real estate investor, just have, like, passive income from apartment buildings? And
Absolutely.
Just kind of, yeah. Is that what you think you'll do, is specifically multifamily, probably, real estate?
I don't know if I care too much about commercial. I think just apartment buildings, Airbnbs, all that kind of stuff, like, that just feels natural to me.
Yeah.
I like the idea of, you know, being a landlord. I like the idea of taking care of these units. I like the hospitality, the service base of that.
Yeah.
So I feel like I know that comes down the road.
Yeah.
It's just, it's not right now. And
Yeah,
I tried to almost get into it right now, and life said, remember, you have school. Your grades are the most important thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you can't be an attorney if you have straight Fs.
Yeah.
Right.
Which you are killing it at school right now, right? Even with your dog walking and stuff. You have some cool honors and stuff with your grades and everything. Yeah.
I am very lucky that I took the right steps to figure out what helps me be the best in an academic setting. I had a lot of struggles during undergrad. My GPA was like a 3.4 something, which is not bad.
Yeah, that's not bad. Well,
but when you're at one of the top business schools and everybody has a 3.9, you feel bad.
No, I know, yeah.
And you
it's
realize,
a small
like,
fish or big pond, whatever. Yeah.
You realize, like, it was on me. There were things I could have done differently, but I just had a lot going on and a lot of struggles. It was like, when I went to college, it was the first time in my life where I wasn't the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
And so, like, growing up, I was always, like, a couple math grades ahead.
Oh,
and
okay.
I think that...
Oh, so even, like, specifically, like, you were at school smarter than most your peers, you would say? Because I wasn't by any means. Yeah, I think, was not school smarter than kids my age.
I think I loved learning more than a lot of my peers. I don't think I was smarter. It was just something, like, I very early on had that shoved into me where I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like, I get to learn things and, like, figure it out.
And was this was it the internet that did that to you, or were you naturally like that? I wasn't like that after I discovered, like, Vsauce and YouTube and stuff, you know, like, yeah.
That's more like one of my siblings. Like, they're very good with, like, learning by other people exampling and, like, YouTube and that kind of information. For me,
but you were always a natural curiosity about the world.
I just loved books. I taught myself how to read.
You. Yeah.
I don't know why my parents didn't teach me how to read. They told me one
time.
Either,
like, but okay, yeah.
They just told me, like, at one
though.
point I picked up the books and I started figuring it out, which is crazy to me. So but cool. I was raised with the parents where A+ or nothing.
Oh, okay.
And so a lot of people will complain about their childhood and, oh, I'm a victim and abuse and this. But you know what?
Yeah.
I would not be the successful person I am today if I didn't have that pressure. Yeah. And eventually they kind of tapered off where they said, okay, maybe it's a little too much. Like, you know, like, she's kind of struggling in, like, college. Yeah. But for me, it was great because growing up, I realized I'm like, oh, I'm doing really well in this, but I got complacent. And I was like, oh, I can do better, but I'm not. And I'm not in the higher math grades. Yeah. And I'm just at this. And so when I got to college and I was like, oh, now when something's hard, I never learned how to keep going.
Bro, that was my problem, dude. I think I was pretty smart, but I would only apply it to the minimum possible thing, dude. So, like, by the end of high school, I just put no effort into academics whatsoever. And I got to college and I was like, holy shit, dude. Like, everyone else is used to trying. I haven't tried in, like, 4 years, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that translates into starting a business, too, because, like,
dude,
when I'm talking about this business, like, I have to explain, like, I was scared for a lot of these things. Like, I walked into a lot of things with fear, insecurity, like, this is just, but I kept doing it. Yeah. And so, like, really interestingly, the business actually helped me do well in school because I'm like, look.
Yeah, you were saying that, yeah.
Like, I have 2 lives I'm living right now. I have 2 personalities. There's the study Erin and there's the business Erin. And so if I can do well in one, like, if I can run 2 miles with a dog when I don't feel like running, I can definitely sit down and study for 2 hours when it's not making sense. Yeah. You got to learn those transferable skills, and you got to shove them into your different opportunities that you're going through.
Okay, and because we got to kind of wrap up, because this always happens, we'll keep talking forever. But By the way, I just realized up your shirt, man. I never got it. The 28 to 32 degrees. I like that.
Oh, so funnily enough.
Oh, do you have a story you can tell us? Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, this is the only thing clean in my apartment. But this was when I was starting out thinking about making a sweater business. I wanted to just do custom ideas based on books that inspired me.
Nice.
So,
I wanted a similar thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was the first sweater that I just made for myself, and you see like the little TM trademark I shoved on.
Yeah.
It was not trademarked, but I wanted to, and so I read Atomic Habits, and I think that's probably the best book that I've ever read, because it just changed my brain chemistry and understanding, like, right, you go from 28 degrees to 29 degrees to 30 degrees to 31 degrees. It's always just 1 degree and no change.
Yeah.
But finally, when you go from 31 to 32, the ice melts.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you can't always look at, oh, I'm doing this effort and this effort and this effort. Sometimes you just got to keep doing it until you get to that 32 degrees.
Yeah.
It's not the effort that's wrong. It's just you're not at that stage yet. Keep doing it. You're not doing anything wrong.
So that was your design. You came up with the little design.
Yeah.
Would you make it on Canva, or how'd you make the design?
I think I used
Photoshop or something?
Gosh, and this is the most complicated thing. This is the funny part because I spent so much time trying to figure out like how to do this. I first drew the ice cube, okay?
Yeah.
And then I somehow like took a picture, and then I had to edit the background remover and all this kind of stuff, and then I put it onto, there's actually a software that comes with the Cricut machine.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so I put it into the Cricut software, but then I had to edit it, and then the lines were off, and I had to draw the lines on top, and it's so ridiculous. I could have found just an ice cube on the internet, background remover,
I like
and
the
then
design,
that's it.
Though it's a good design language,
Yeah, so that's the funny part of like starting a business. Like you get too in the weeds, and eventually you just get sick of it, and you getting sick of it is when you jump to the next level. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, good learning lesson, but like, God, this is such a waste of my time.
Dude, that sticker you clicked was probably like that. I spent way too long making the designs, and I was just like, alright, fuck, I'm just gonna find some sort of template. I scroll for 2 minutes, I find the perfect template, and I'm just like, okay, we'll throw that on,
But you had to do it because now the lesson sticks.
Yeah, I know,
You know, like, we're so wrapped up and we gotta do it perfectly the first time. No, you don't.
Yeah.
No, you don't. I didn't know what I was doing when I was walking the dog the first time. I'm like, oh, okay, you want to go this way? Okay, let's go. Yeah. Now, if my dog's trying to tug my arm off, I say, nope, you're going to walk right next to me.
Dude,
nope, let's go.
Yeah. It's like, I like that quote. It's like, entrepreneurs, you got to jump and build your wings on the way down. You got to have the courage to jump. And then,
That's good. I agree with that. Yeah.
Okay, any last words, like, you want to leave, especially the audience with, like, just specifically about starting dog walking, or about that or anything else entrepreneurial. It does seem like dog walking specifically is a very easy thing to get into. Any advice, ending words, advice, stuff like that. You know?
So I think I'll just touch on, like, remember knowing yourself. So if you're low risk, you don't want to put money into it, find something where it's just your time. And the best skill that you can develop when starting any kind of business, dog care, whatnot, is courage. And you won't have it until you're doing things, right? I am 3 years into this business, and I'm still not handing out my business cards because there's just some kind of insecurity in me where I feel like I'm bothering people.
Yeah.
If you walk into any business opportunity and say, what if somebody is praying for someone exactly like you to take care of their dog? What if somebody needs something that you say completely unrelated to the service you're providing for them to like catapult into the next chapter of their life? You know, you have to start seeing yourself as like life, the universe uses you to help people, and sometimes you do that through your business, and it's not about the money, it's just being in someone's life. So then that takes the pressure off and says, I'm an asset, I'm not bothering people, like they need me. And so I think that's what I started doing with my dog care business, and I think that it was very easy to start. I am truly blown away. I would have never thought that I'd be at the point where I'm making $65 an hour walking a dog.
Dude, totally,
Right? To the point where you can truly make, I've cleared $5,000 in a week. You know, you can easily make $10,000 in a month if you're really doing it. I think that anyone that's considering the dog care business, you have to remember 3 rules. 1, do no harm. Do no harm. Never hurt the dog. Never, and I say that because people don't realize, like, your frustrations can get high with some dogs. They can tug on your arm, you know, they'll get yappy, they'll irritate you, absolutely. But like, 1, do no harm, and think of it as like you're building your own patience, and you're growing your own skill. 2, take as many clients as you can. Don't turn them down. You'd be surprised what you learn from all these dogs for your own personal growth, and that really, really builds your business. Like you don't have the luxury of saying no to dogs until you get a little bit higher up and the demand is high.
Yeah, I would assume so. Yeah.
And 3, just be kind. You know, like you want to be kind to the person that you're interacting with. If they're stressed, if they're insecure, they don't feel good about their relationship with their dog, you don't need to point out like, yeah, you're kind of doing a terrible job. You can be like, hey, you know what? But like you found them a walk. You know, I know you're working long shifts, but like you got them a walk. That's awesome. Because you also want to see this as an opportunity to help people. It's not just about the dogs.
Yeah, make them feel good about, you know, their service and everything.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah, that's wonderful. Anything else? I guess. Thank you for sitting down with me.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, okay. To close, yeah. Thank you so much for sitting down with me, Erin, and telling us about your business. I don't know how to end them, but all right. Yeah. Thank you so much. That's it. Cut. So.
Yeah,
We're
that's
done.
good.
All right.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you.
Good job. See?
All right. Yeah.
Very good job.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming and sitting down and everything.